Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast this evening. Tonight, we have an amazing author. We're really excited to bring her to you, and we want to show everything that we can about her. So, before we start talking to her, let's jump into this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now. And we're back. Here we are. So share a little bit about yourself, Miss Isla Lynn.
Hello, everybody. I am a transformational life coach for ladies over 30 who are getting back out into the dating world after divorce or toxic love. And I have been doing this for the last 5 years professionally, but I've coached, advised, counseled for the last 20. And I'm so glad to be here to be able to share about my book and also speak about a topic that's extremely near and dear to my heart that so many of us have a hard time with. So I hope that I will give you a opportunity to see it from a different angle. What I like to do in my practice is to shift your perspective on things, because sometimes we can get stuck telling ourselves stories that are keeping us away from becoming the best version of ourselves. And a lot of us go through life wearing a mask. And so the reason why I wanted to write this book and put it out there is because I've myself struggled with that mask for years. As an empath, as a people pleaser, I would be always someone that would always get the short end of the stick and always felt like I wasn't doing enough and always fell victim to those around me. And so when you unmask, when you know who you truly are, when you step into that power, that authentic power that you possess within yourself, then everything changes. Absolutely everything. Because when you're true to yourself, everything around you tends to align with that version of you. Because up until now, you've been pretending to be someone else. And that means that all the things that are coming into your life, all the problems, all the pain, all the hurt, all the abuse even, has been because you have not been feeling confident enough or safe enough to be who you are, to show the world who you truly are.
The showing of yourself to the world, it's terrifying. And it's so important. So I think those things that scare us are probably something that we need to look at and figure out a way that we can go through it. And in that through portion, the overcome happens. I don't think anything really goes away, but you just learn and you get better at practicing more of your skills. So I really like to think about so many things of in that journey of where you are, where you hope to be. And even when you get to this place, sometimes the perspective shifts helps you even further than you had thought. So in your book, Uncover the Authentic You, what are some of the tips that you offer and present there that you'd like to share with us? Not the whole book. We want them to get out there and get that book. But what's something that you could maybe tidbit for all of us here tonight?
So I wrote this book more as a guide on how to become the authentic version of yourself. We hear a lot about you need to love yourself, you need to do self-care, you got to take care of yourself, but nobody truly tells you how to. So I saw the need for that because I myself have struggled with that. And what literally took me 2 decades, I have combined all that has worked for me in 12 easy steps so that you can become the best version of yourself, so that you can discover who that is truly, kind of stepping back, looking back into what brought you joy. What did you enjoy back before the world took a hold of you, before you felt like you need to be someone else because you didn't want to be judged, or you did not want anybody to come after you with, you're not good enough, or you just yourself thinking that you're not good enough. Because so many of the things that happen in our lives become an interpretation of who we are, right? Because you look at that, and if someone, let's say, abandons you, you feel like something is wrong with you, that you're not enough, that you didn't do enough, that you, because I speak a lot to relationships and in terms of divorces. Like, why have you divorced? Is it because I'm not a good enough partner to you? Am I not a good mother? Am I not a good friend? And all of these things you kind of tend to internalize. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to change that. Like, I wanted to shift the stigma around being your authentic self and someone loving you for who you are. You don't need to wear a skin or a mask for someone to like you. As humans, we are wired for connection, but so many of us are creating fake connections because we are adapting to the other person, because we don't want to be neglected, we don't want to be abandoned. And so many of us fall into a trap being with partners that are not congruent with who we are and what we want in life. So we kind of settle with the fact that, oh, this is good enough for now, or if someone does not provide for you in terms of what is it that you need to thrive in your relationship, you kind of dismiss it because, oh, maybe they had a bad day, or they were, they had stress at work, or you're always finding excuses. And in the process, you're gaslighting yourself. And so my book really helps you kind of unpack this persona that is within yourself, that is just screaming to come out, but is really afraid to do that because of so many things being piled on top of you, that when you're in this state of pretending, it is hard to get out, because that means that by revealing true you, you're going to lose people around you. And so one of the things that I highlight here is that this journey that you're going to embark on is going to require you to let go of some people, some places, some things, some beliefs, some behaviors. And so we go through each step that I've personally taken, that I know has worked for me, and I can guarantee is going to work for you if you're ready to be intentional and consistent.
That consistency is a really key part. And there's still room for forgiveness because days happen. So sometimes in our consistency, if we miss something, we sometimes think, oh, we have to go all the way back to the starting point. That's not true. You can never really go back to where you started because you have changed. So wherever you were at that point, keep going forward as much as you can. And I'm sure in your coaching, you probably discuss something like that, because as we want and hope for something, sometimes we get into the mindset of perfection within the change. Just drop that right now, guys. It's never going to be perfect within the change. The hope and idea of this and learning is to stretch, grow, get messy. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Change is messy. Change is scary. But change is something that is necessary for us to grow as human beings. And I love to speak about forgiveness because that is one aspect of our lives that so many of us struggle with, right? Because at any point in your life, you've been hurt. And you've been the one who hurt someone else. And so when you look at forgiveness, they are layers of forgiveness. And one of the things that I see a lot with my clients is that they're holding onto it as if it's giving them a power. Like, I'm going to hold that grudge, so I'm going to be in control. But what they don't realize is that it is eating them from the inside out. It is hindering their process of growth. It is causing them to stay stuck because they're constantly reminiscing about all the things that were done to them. But I'd love the opportunity today to shift that perspective for you. I want to talk about the duality in life, the hot and cold, the pain and pleasure. If you didn't know the pain, if you didn't know the hurt, would you know what pleasure feels like? Would you know what joy feels like? Probably not. So we as humans in our living, we need to go through these hurdles, these ups and downs, because we learned through this. We learn what's good versus what's not good. And so when you choose to not forgive someone, you're holding yourself back. The one thing that's important to understand is that the person who hurt you may have done it unintentionally, because everybody is looking at their life from the me perspective with the knowledge that they have.
Is that similar to saying they're doing the best they can with what they have, like with what they've
Absolutely.
learned? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we all are. We all are, right? Because when you are in your journey of growth, it is easy to say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But you need to understand and be gentle with yourself and remind yourself that back then you did not have that knowledge. You were not aware that you could do things differently, that you could respond versus reacting. Right? So you got to be gentle and patient with yourself and get into that sense of understanding of, I didn't know any better. And perhaps the person that did this onto me did not know any better. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive them. I don't need to necessarily speak to them or ask forgiveness of them, but I can choose in my own heart to forgive and move on so that I can have a clean slate, so that I can start building my future blocks on neutrality, on that sense of understanding of, this is what I'm going to make peace with. And this is what I now need to do to be able to grow as a individual.
It's just so fascinating that those truths really ring within us. Yet, what do we practice? And on what platform do we practice it so awful? Social media itself is meant to polarize and cause you to pick this or pick that. There is no journey. It's right or wrong, and just the constant barragement or constant defense, or you're either with us or against us. And what you just described there was a completely different perspective. So we practice in our free time, right, through social media, this thing of, oh, I'm going to respond. I'm going to react to something like this. And we're well practiced. How many years has this social media really been infecting our lives? And yet we can take this opportunity to practice these things within the very social media that has conditioned a whole generation to know how to respond. As I teach high schoolers, this is all they've known. They've never known a world without. It's fascinating to really think about that. These kids that are born, that are my freshmen, have never understood a world without this media constant bombardment. They don't know any different.
It's
So when we
incredible.
talk, when we talk about kindness, when we talk about helping other people and looking at a perspective and thinking of other people's thinking and what they're going through,
Yeah.
and they're doing the best they can with what they know, we have a lot of pause time and a lot of thinking on that, like, because the first response is, why am I in trouble? Why, what's happening now? Instant
Mhm.
defense. And as I calmly just respond, why do you think that?
Yeah.
Are you okay with the feeling always on
Mhm.
flight like that all the time?
In
And
a
I said, I
constant
want you
fight and flight. Yeah.
constant,
Uh,
constant. Can't imagine living in such a war zone
It's
with
awful because your nervous system is impacted in such a grand way that it doesn't matter what you do, you're still stressed out. So even if you have, let's say, read self-help books, you have watched YouTube, and you have tried to make that change, you can't, because a lot of that is subconscious. 98% of our subconscious mind is what drives our behavior, and only 2% of our conscious. So the logic, the one that we know in terms of, I need to do better, I need to do this differently, I shouldn't be reacting, I should be responding, or just choosing not to get involved, you're trying to change those 98% with those 2% of logic, and it does not happen. Subconscious can only be changed through either emotional impact or repetition. And a lot of times, what I do in my practice is I repeat. That is the job of a coach: repeating, repeating, repeating. And sometimes it gets to the point like, stop talking about that. But it is the repetition that your subconscious gets rewired, because your thinking needs to change. Therefore, your behavior is going to change. Therefore, your results and your outcomes are going to change. And when you understand that and you get into the consistent daily action, that's when you can actually change what it is that you're trying to change. But if I want to go back to forgiveness, I do want to say one thing, and that is forgiving yourself is the hardest, most challenging thing to do. And I will repeat myself now again. Forgive yourself because you did not know what you know now back then. You did not have the knowledge to make the decisions, the conscious decisions that you would make right now. So be kind to yourself. Stop self-loathing, because so much of our inner talk, that inner voice, is sabotaging our success for growth. That, of course, spills into your career, into your health, into your relationships. So you got to start with yourself. Whenever you catch yourself thinking something negative, because humans are wired for negativity, hence the whole social media, everybody's just like, yes, I'm just absorbing it. I'm like a sponge. All of that is a choice. Do I want to consume what is being fed to me? Or do I want to look the other way and choose to focus on the things that nourish me on the inside out, that nourish my heart, that nourish my soul, that nourish my mind? It is your choice, and that is your power. You have that power within yourself. And the only way to get to that point is if you know who you are. So much depression, so much anxiety out in the world is because people are lost. They've lost the sense of self because they've been trying to shape shift into everything that the world wants us to be. What our moms and dad wants, what our teachers want, what our bosses want. And you are completely split personality. But when you know who you are and you're true to yourself, and you accept yourself, the imperfect version of you, then all of that loses power over you, because every time you give someone power to make you happy, every time you give someone power to shift you from your direction, you lose confidence. Confidence is a skill, and you acquire it through doing. But above else, through keeping a promise to yourself, not self-abandoning. Because so many of us are so great at self-abandoning. So we're letting others take the wheel of our life. It is time to take it back, to get back in the driver's seat and start driving in the direction that feels aligned with your heart and your soul, regardless of what the world around you says or does.
It's really, really powerful to understand when that small pinpoint starts to spark and you think, I need to follow in this direction. As that coach, I'm sure you keep encouraging towards that place because they themselves will be so surprised of what they find there. And yet at the same time, when they find it, I think they're just going to be pleased with some idea of themselves that they already knew, right? They knew something deep in there was there. And in those quote arrivals and or benchmarks or mile markers, and as they continue, that power to uncover the authentic you or self has real power to impact generations, family, friendships, relationships, because really it's what we all desire in the first place. So within the journey, it's kind of like we circle back, not to our pain and our suffering, but we circle back almost at a higher level and we look again and we are so grateful. We are so thankful. We have this movement because we have practiced forgiveness. We have practiced the skills. We can continue to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, have the hour of frustration and venting, keep going forward because now we're skilled and we've practiced the skills and we're using the tools. Very, very different. And so when people meet you again that you haven't seen in a long time, we'll use the high school reunion for the idea. And when they say, you haven't changed at all, that might be a pretty big warning. And when you meet again and you can just see more light, hope, and just there is a confidence, we will say, within them that really
You
means they're
have this
living it.
glow, right? You have this glow about yourself because you're proud of who you are and the work that you have done, right? And like I said in the beginning, this journey is going to make you level up. But at the same time, the people that were in your circle are going to fall off. Those that are meant to go with you are going to grow with you. They're going to support you. They're going to push you up. They're going to propel you and give you that emotional support that you need that's so important. And those that say, oh, I don't see that, or no, what are you doing? Like, why are you changing? What's going on? Like, you're not the same. Those are not people that you want around yourself because we become who we surround ourselves with. And so when you come to that understanding, then you can be appreciative for those who have been with you through whatever it is that you have gone through as a lesson. But now you gently say goodbye and you're grateful for that experience. But then you move on, right? You move on to the next level where you meet new people who are going to help you move to the next level and so on and so forth. Because it is not about the destination. It's about a journey there. And the journey is what we need to start getting comfortable with. It is the journey that we need to learn to enjoy, the good and bad, right? The ups and downs. Because if we flatline, we're not growing, we're disintegrating. And humans are not meant to disintegrate, they're meant to grow. And when you become aware of the power that you already have within, that glimmer of light that is just waiting to be ignited into an inferno, then you can see that. And I take so much pride and I'm so humble for all my clients who come to me and give me the opportunity to guide them through that, to, hold my hand so that I can show them because I was there myself. And I've gotten to a point where it's like now I've learned from that. These this pain, this hurt, even the abuse that I have endured has taught me something. Before I began this journey, I didn't think that my story mattered. And that's why I didn't write my book for so long. I did not believe in myself. I didn't believe that what I have to share matters. But now I can see that my book can change the world, not just for the person who reads it, but for the families, because every person is going to impact their loved ones, is going to set the stage for the next generation to break the chain of dysfunction. And that is really the big mission of mine. It's not the women that I work with, but it's the legacy that they have a power to create for their families and to be the ancestor that broke that darn chain of abuse and dysfunction and misunderstandings and to set the next generations for success. My kids, I have an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I'm so proud that I'm not going to be the parent or the parent that's going to put them down, criticize them, and confuse them in the process, or expect them to be something that I want them to be. Because a lot of times when we are not well, when we are not healed, we tend to try and correct that through our children. And that is not fair to them. Every child has the right to live their own life the way they are intended to, with their authentic self. My 13-year-old is so hyper. Somebody had said he might have ADHD. And I don't think he does. He's just very high spirited and he's excited. He loves talking. He's very sociable. And I don't allow anybody to put my kid down, to diminish him in any way, to devalue them in any way, because I have been devalued through my life. And I can tell you, being in that dark place is not a good place, especially being a kid, being a teenager. Right now, with everything, suicides among teens, the drugs, and all of these things, I feel that parents, a lot of times, have the power to guide their children in the right direction. And even if they stray away, they can gently guide them back and explain to them that this direction that they're going is not going to be congruent with the ability and the potential that they have. And so whenever I work with my clients, I have that vision because a lot of them have kids. So for me, knowing that these children are going to have someone who has a clear mind and clear understanding of what human experience is supposed to be about, so that they can set up the next loving families, right? Because when you grow up in a home that is warm, that is loving, that values you as a person, regardless of what you have achieved, then you end up becoming that parent. And so that gives me such a great pride and the reason why I get up in the morning and why I also wanted to put my book out there.
Thank you so much, Isla, for sharing the power and strength of discovering this is impactful for generations. And if we want our pinpoint of light to stretch forward and be amplified, what better way than to heal ourselves, pass on the idea of healthy relationships and communication so that they grow up within love, and then they don't have a lot to change and figure out. They can then just go forward and continue to bless the world that they're in and their future children. It is life-changing, the work that you do. Please, everybody, go and grab her book, Uncover the Authentic You. And Isla, where can we grab this book at?
The book is available on Amazon right now. You can get it in a paperback, or I believe it is on Kindle as well right now. But I suggest that you grab the actual book, because at the end of the book, it has a notebook that you can write your notes in. So as you go through the chapters and the steps, you can write things down, and it's all in one place. As a mom, I don't like to schlep a notebook and all these things. So I wanted to make it practical so that you can just grab it, grab a pen, and you can go sit at the park, on the bench while your kids are playing or whatever, just so that you can enjoy it. And because, moms have busy lives, and I try to make it as simple as possible. There's no fancy words inside. So it is very much step by step, and it's going to open your eyes. It truly is, because it has changed my life. And like the podcast says, if you do the work, you can become the beacon of light for the world, for your family, and for everybody around you. So you can go on and inspire as well. You can share your story, because your story matters. It is who you are. And do not be afraid to hide. I mean, do not be afraid to show the world and not hide who you truly are, because you're amazing just the way you are. The fact that you are in this world is such a gift, and don't let that go in vain.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Isla. And go ahead,
Thank
grab
you.
her book from Amazon and check in with her. The best place to contact her is through her Facebook page. And go ahead, make the contact, find out what she can do to help you uncover your authentic you. Good night, everybody.